Welcome to Monk's Temple. Please, come in and find a place of rest. Let the world outside grow quiet. Let the noise in your mind soften, like waves receding from the shore. There is no need to do anything here, no need to be anything. Just be. Just listen. Let your breath find its own gentle rhythm, and let your body settle into the support beneath you. You are safe here. You are welcome. Tonight, we are going to wander down a different path together. A path not of fighting, but of understanding. Not of resisting, but of flowing. We have all been told a story about our bodies, about time, about what it means to grow older. It is a story of inevitable decline, of fading strength, of stiffening joints, of a slow retreat from life itself. It is a story where the passage of years is the main character, and we are merely its helpless subjects. But what if that story is incomplete? What if, woven within that tale, there is a deeper, quieter truth, one that offers not a battle, but a profound sense of peace and continued vitality? This is the wisdom that Buddhism, in its timeless and compassionate way, brings to the experience of living in a body that changes. The Buddha did not teach us to cling to youth. He taught something far more revolutionary. He taught us to see clearly. To see the nature of suffering, and the path to its cessation. And a great deal of our suffering around aging comes from a simple, powerful misunderstanding. We believe aging is something that happens to us. We believe we are passive recipients of time's wear and tear. But Buddhism gently challenges this. It suggests that aging, as we commonly fear it, is less about time itself and more about the relationship we cultivate, or neglect, with our own living experience in each present moment. It is about the quality of our awareness. When awareness is bright, fluid, and engaged, life feels vibrant, regardless of the number of years. When awareness dims, when it becomes stagnant and rigid, that is when we feel old, long before our time. Think of your awareness not as a light inside your head, but as a gentle rain that falls upon the landscape of your body. Where this rain falls consistently, life blossoms, sensations are clear, movement is fluid, there is a sense of aliveness and connection. Where the rain does not fall, where we have withdrawn our attention, where we have decided a part of us is numb, stiff, or unimportant, the landscape there begins to dry. It cracks. It becomes fragile. This is not the work of time. This is the work of inattention. This is what in Buddhism we might call a form of clinging to comfort, to routine, to the avoidance of the mild discomfort that comes with paying full attention to our changing selves. So our journey tonight is about becoming better gardeners of our own inner landscape. It is about learning to let the gentle rain of awareness fall upon places we have let go dry. And the simplest, most direct way to do this is through movement. Not frantic, punishing movement, but mindful, curious, compassionate motion. Movement that is less about changing the body and more about listening to it. Movement that is, in its essence, a practice of kindness. Let me share with you a story from my own early days at the monastery. There was an old monk, perhaps the oldest in our community. His name was Jean. He moved with a slowness that was not burdensome, but deliberate, like a deep river flowing. Every morning, without fail, I would see him in the courtyard just after dawn. And every morning, his practice was the same. It was not complex. He would simply stand, and very slowly, begin to turn his head to look over his right shoulder. He would pause there, breathing. Then he would turn back to center. Then he would turn to look over his left shoulder. Pause. Breathe. Return. That was it. Some mornings, that was all he did for 10 minutes. Just turning his head. As a young man, full of energy and ideas about rigorous practice, I confess I thought it was too simple. One morning, my curiosity overcame my manners. I approached him and asked, "Venerable Gene, forgive my asking, but is that your entire practice for vitality? Just turning your head?" He finished his turn to the left, brought his gaze forward, and then looked at me with eyes that were profoundly clear. He smiled. "Young friend," he said, his voice like rustling leaves. "I am not practicing turning my head. I am practicing turning my attention. For 60 years, I read scriptures, bent over texts. My attention flew out of my eyes and into the words. My neck became a forgotten road, just a pole to hold up my thinking. It grew stiff. It became a place where awareness no longer lived. So now, each morning, I invite my awareness to walk back down that road. I turn, and I feel. I feel the pull here, the release there. I feel the memories held in the tissue. I am not stretching a muscle. I am reclaiming a lost territory of my own being. Where awareness returns, life returns. This is how we stay young where it matters most. That moment changed everything for me. Movement was not exercise. It was repatriation. It was the act of bringing the gentle rain of attention back to the parched earth of neglected sensation. Every time you move with that quality of listening, you are doing what Gene did. You are saying, "I am here. I remember you. You are part of my wholeness." If this way of listening, this different approach to being in a body, resonates with you, I invite you to subscribe to Monk's Temple. It is a way of choosing to stay in this gentle conversation, of reminding yourself that this path of mindful vitality is here for you, anytime you need to return. Now, let us explore this idea of reclamation further. We often think of our body in terms of separate parts, a knee that hurts, a back that is stiff, shoulders that are tight. We address them as isolated problems. But Buddhism teaches dependent origination, the profound interconnectedness of all things. Nothing exists in isolation. Your stiff shoulder is not an island. It is connected to your breath, which may be shallow from stress. It is connected to your spine, which may be held rigid from sitting. It is connected to your state of mind, which may be anxious or weary. Therefore, mindful movement is never just about the local area. It is about restoring harmony to the whole system. It is about understanding that a gentle movement of the spine can ease a headache. That a conscious practice of balance can calm an anxious mind. That deep, rhythmic breathing can soften a guarded heart. We are not fixing broken parts. We are tuning an instrument, so the whole symphony of your being can play in key. I recall a woman who came to our retreat, a musician named Alara. She was a cellist, and her right shoulder and arm were in constant pain, threatening her career. She had seen many specialists who focused only on the shoulder, the broken part. Our approach was different. We began with her feet. We had her stand barefoot and simply feel the ground. Then we invited her to feel the connection from her feet, up through her legs, into her hips, up her spine, and out through the very fingers that held her bow. We did not stretch her shoulder. We had her make tiny, slow circles with her wrist, while her attention traveled that whole pathway of connection. Tears streamed down her face. All this time, she whispered, I've been trying to command my arm from my worried mind. I forgot it was connected to the earth. Within weeks, by practicing this whole body awareness, her pain diminished significantly. She wasn't just healing a shoulder, she was remembering her wholeness. This is the first, foundational principle: see your body not as a collection of problems, but as a unified field of awareness waiting to be inhabited fully. Your movement is the means of that habitation. If the body is a unified field of awareness, then what is the force that fragments it? What pulls us out of this wholeness and into the experience of isolated aches and growing stiffness? In Buddhism, we find a powerful answer: it is craving, and its close relative, aversion. Craving for comfort. Aversion to discomfort. This pair works silently in the background of our lives, shaping our relationship with our physical form more than we realize. We crave the soft chair, the extra hour of stillness, the path of least resistance. And we have a deep aversion to the mild burn of a muscle working, the unfamiliar sensation of a joint moving through its full range, the slight breathlessness of effort. This is entirely natural. The mind seeks to conserve energy. But when this natural tendency goes unchecked, when it becomes the unconscious ruler of our days, it initiates a slow process of withdrawal. Think of it as a series of quiet, internal negotiations. I could go for a walk, but the couch is so comfortable. I should stretch, but it might feel awkward. I'll move tomorrow. Each time we choose the craving for comfort and the aversion to mild effort, we are not just making a choice about an activity. We are sending a message to the body's intelligence system. The message is, your capacity for motion is not needed. Your ability to adapt is not required. Please, conserve. Shut down. Become still. And the body, in its faithful intelligence, obeys. It begins to down-regulate. Circulation slows to unused areas. Neural pathways that govern complex movement begin to fade, like untrodden paths in a forest. The synovial fluid that oils our joints becomes less viscous. This is not malice, nor is it mere aging. This is the body's efficient response to the consistent message it is receiving: do not move. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from tanha, thirst, craving. We usually think of this as craving for possessions, for praise, for sensory pleasures. But it applies just as profoundly to the craving for perpetual, motionless ease. We thirst for a life without physical challenge. And in seeking to quench that thirst, we inadvertently create a different kind of suffering, the suffering of stiffness, of weakness, of feeling trapped in a body that no longer feels like our own. The antidote, then, is not to swing to the other extreme of self-punishment. It is to cultivate right effort. This is a cornerstone of the Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path. Right effort is the balanced, sustained application of energy. It is the effort to cultivate wholesome states and let go of unwholesome ones. Applied to the body, right effort is the gentle, consistent choice to move with awareness, even when the mind whispers for comfort. It is not about pushing to exhaustion. It is about the disciplined kindness of showing up. Right effort in movement is the act of kindly overriding that initial whisper of aversion. It is saying, I hear you, mind, you want to stay comfortable. But we are going to move gently now, and we are going to pay close, kind attention to everything we feel. This transforms the act from a chore into a practice of mindfulness. It becomes meditation in motion. Let me tell you a story about a potter I knew in a small mountain village. His name was Kaito. He made the most beautiful, delicate teacups. His hands were always covered in clay. Every evening, without fail, he would perform a ritual. He would take a large basin of warm water and a soft cloth. And he would wash his hands. But it was not a hurried washing. It took him 20 minutes. He would slowly, methodically, lovingly wash each finger, each knuckle, the web between thumb and forefinger, the lines of his palms. He would flex and extend each joint under the water's flow. He would massage the muscles of his forearms. I asked him once why he took such care, long after the clay was gone. "Ah," he said, holding up a hand. "This is not just cleaning. This is an apology and a thank you. All day, I ask these hands to work. To grip, to shape, to apply pressure with exquisite precision. I crave the beautiful cup. I have an aversion to stopping. So I use them hard. This is my craving." In the evening, if I just wipe the clay off and go to sleep, I am still in that state of craving. I am saying, "Good tools, rest now, I will need you again tomorrow." But when I wash them like this, with full attention, I am saying something else. I am saying, "I see you. I feel what I asked of you today. Thank you for your service. I release you from the demands of the day. It is not just the clay I am washing away. It is my own craving that used them without full awareness." This is how they stay alive, how they stay friends with me, even as I grow old. Kaito the potter understood right effort. His work was the effort, the doing. His washing ritual was the effort of letting go, of releasing the craving that could lead to using his body as a mere tool. His mindful movement was the balance between the two. This is what we must bring to our own practice. Our daily movement, whether it is walking, stretching, or simple rotations, should be that warm basin of attentive water. It is not the main work of the day, it is the ritual of release. It is where we wash away the residue of the day's craving for productivity and aversion to rest, or the day's craving for rest and aversion to action. We move not to achieve, but to rebalance. To apologize and thank the body for carrying us, and to remind it that it is more than a tool, it is a partner in awareness. When you approach your movement with this spirit, something shifts. The resistance fades. You are no longer working out. You are engaging in a daily ceremony of reconciliation with your own flesh and bone. You are practicing non-attachment to the state of lethargy. And in that practice, you break the cycle of craving and aversion that leads to stagnation. The body, feeling listened to and respected, begins to trust movement again. It begins to open, not because it is forced, but because it feels safe. In our last part, we spoke of the body as a unified field and the gentle discipline of right effort. Now, let's consider the vessel that holds this field, the architecture of your presence, your posture. We often think of posture as a position to hold, a rigid straightness we must enforce upon ourselves. We are told to sit up straight or stand tall, often with a tone of correction. This turns posture into a battle between how we are and how we should be, a battle we often lose, slouching back into what feels easier. Buddhism offers a radically different view. Posture is not a position you hold. It is a quality of relationship you embody. It is the ongoing, dynamic conversation between the crown of your head and the heavens, and the soles of your feet and the earth. It is how you orient yourself in the space between sky and ground. When this relationship is conscious and fluid, you have good posture without trying. When this relationship is unconscious or strained, you have bad posture that no amount of forcing can truly fix. The Buddha placed great emphasis on mindfulness of posture, iryapatha. For a meditator, the posture is the foundation for the mind. But this foundation is not meant to be a rigid prison. In the classic instructions, it is described as upright but not stiff, relaxed but not collapsed. Can you feel the profound wisdom in that balance? Uprightness speaks of dignity, of presence, of being ready to receive experience. Relaxation speaks of acceptance, of non-resistance, of allowing life to flow through you. The goal is not a statue's perfection, but a tree's vitality, roots deep and secure, branches reaching freely, whole body swaying gracefully with the wind of circumstance. When we neglect this mindful relationship with our structure, we don't just get a sore back. We create a fundamental misalignment in our very being. We compress the space where breath should flow. We shorten the channel through which awareness travels. We tell a story of burden, of weariness, of needing to curl in upon ourselves for protection. The body believes this story and makes it physical reality. The mind, receiving signals from a compressed and weary body, begins to believe the story too. It becomes anxious, defensive, tired. Now, consider a simple, powerful metaphor. Your spine is not a pillar. It is a willow branch. A pillar is rigid. It resists force until, under sufficient pressure, it cracks. A willow branch is strong yet supremely flexible. When the storm comes, it bends. It sways. It moves with the wind, its tips touching the ground, yet its core connection to the earth remains unbroken. When the storm passes, it swings back upright, resilient and unharmed. Its strength lies not in its resistance, but in its adaptability. Your spinal column, your core, is meant to be a willow branch. It is designed to bend forward to tie a shoe, to twist to see a child running by, to arch back to look at the stars, to sway side to side as you walk. Each of these movements, when done with awareness, is a reaffirmation of your connection to life. They are not just tasks, they are dialogues with gravity, with space, with momentum. Modern life teaches our spine to be a pillar. We sit for hours, often in chairs that do the supporting for us. We stare straight ahead at screens, eliminating the need for rotation. We walk on flat, predictable surfaces, minimizing the need for subtle lateral shifts. Slowly, unconsciously, we train the willow branch to forget its nature. It begins to hold itself stiffly, fearing the bend, forgetting how to sway. We mistake this stiffening for aging. But it is not age. It is amnesia. Mindful movement, then, is the practice of reminding your spine that it is a willow branch. It is the gentle, daily invitation to bend, to twist, to sway, not to its extreme limits, but through its comfortable, available range, with full attention. As you do this, you are not just stretching muscles. You are jogging the memory of your entire nervous system. You are whispering, remember. You are alive. You are allowed to move. You are designed to adapt. I remember a man named Leo, a retired engineer who came to me with a back as stiff as a steel rod, as he put it. He was terrified of bending, convinced he would break something. We didn't start with bending. We started with imagination. I asked him to sit and simply visualize his spine as a young, green willow shoot beside a pond. I asked him to imagine a soft breeze blowing, and to see, in his mind's eye, that willow shoot swaying, just an inch to the left, then back to center, then an inch to the right. He would do this for 5 minutes a day, just imagining the sway. After a week, he reported a curious thing. When I imagine it swaying, he said, I can feel a tiny, tiny sensation of release deep in my lower back. It's not me moving. It's like, it's sighing. That was the memory waking up. Only then did we introduce movement. Sitting in a chair, he would place his hands on his knees and let his torso sway forward 1 millimeter, then back, then side to side, with the same microscopic gentleness. The goal was not range of motion. The goal was to reconnect the intention of movement with the sensation of life in his back. Over months, the steel rod regained a supple, resilient quality. Leo wasn't just fixing his back, he was rewriting its story from pillar back to willow branch. This is your practice. See your posture not as a thing to correct, but as a relationship to nourish. In your movement today, be the willow, not the pillar. Seek not stiffness in the name of strength, but resilience in the name of life. Let your movement be a rediscovery of grace, a gentle swaying in the breeze of your own breath. We have spoken of the unified field, the discipline of right effort, and the willow branch of the spine. These are the foundations. Now, let us explore one of the most beautiful and practical fruits of this practice, balance. In the world of physical fitness, balance is often treated as a peripheral skill, a nice-to-have, something we test briefly on one leg. But through the lens of Buddhist wisdom, balance is far more profound. It is nothing less than the physical expression of equanimity. Equanimity, or upekkha, is one of the 4 sublime states in Buddhism. It is a mind of balance, a serene stillness that is not shaken by the 8 worldly winds, gain and loss, fame and disrepute, praise and blame, pleasure and pain. It is the ability to remain centered amidst life's constant fluctuations. We often think of this as a lofty, mental achievement. But the body is the mind's first student. And the body learns equanimity through the literal, physical practice of balance. Consider this: when you stand on one foot, you are immediately plunged into the present moment. You cannot successfully balance while ruminating on a past mistake or worrying about a future meeting. The mind must come home, right now, to the sensations in the sole of your standing foot, to the subtle adjustments in your ankle, to the horizon line before your eyes. The moment your attention drifts, you wobble. Balance, therefore, is a master teacher in mindfulness. It demands presence, and it gives immediate, non-judgmental feedback. But there is a deeper layer. When you begin to wobble, what is your instinctive reaction? For most, it is a sudden tightening, a grasping for stability through rigidity. The breath catches. The shoulders hike. The standing leg locks. This is the body's metaphor for how we often meet instability in life, with fear, tension, and desperate control. We try to freeze the wobbling world. And what happens? The tension makes you more unstable. The locked joint cannot make micro-adjustments. You are more likely to fall. Now, apply the principle of the willow branch. What if, when you felt the wobble, you did the opposite? What if you softened? What if you allowed the ankle to be supple, the knee to be slightly bent, the breath to continue flowing? You would discover that the body's innate intelligence knows how to make hundreds of tiny corrections per second, but only if you get out of its way. Only if you release the grasping for perfect stillness and instead participate in the dynamic dance of stability. This is equanimity in the body, not a rigid, frozen poise, but a calm, fluid participation in constant change. The practice of physical balance, therefore, is training for the mind. You are learning, at a cellular level, that stability is not found in rigidity, but in responsive softness. That the ground is always there to meet you, and your job is not to fight gravity but to converse with it. Every time you practice balance standing, you are rehearsing how to meet life's unexpected shifts, not with a panicked gasp and a stiffening of your entire being, but with a quiet breath, a softening of the heart, and a trust in your capacity to adapt. Let me tell you a story about a grandmother in a coastal village. Her name was Nalini, and she carried baskets of fish on her head from the boats to the market. The path was uneven, stones slick with seaweed, the weight on her head considerable. Yet she moved with a serene, gliding grace, her body perfectly upright, her gaze calm. Children would try to mimic her, wobbling and laughing. One day, a visitor asked her secret. "How are you so steady on such an unsteady path?" Nalini set her basket down and smiled. "The secret is not in the head or the feet," she said. "It is in the hips." She placed her hands on her hips. "Here is where the sea meets the shore. Up here," she gestured to her torso and head, "is the sky, the basket, the destination. Down here," she nodded to her legs, "is the earth, the stones, the waves. The hips are the harbor. If the harbor is tight, every wave from below jars the sky above. The basket falls. But if the harbor is soft..." She began to sway her hips in a gentle, rhythmic figure eight, then the waves can move through. The earth can shift, and the sky stays calm. I do not try to keep the basket still. I let my hips listen to the ground, and the basket takes care of itself. She was describing, in the most poetic physical terms, the essence of equanimity. Her harbor, her center, her hips. Remained soft and receptive, allowing the waves of the uneven path to move through her without disturbing the sky of her upright posture and calm mind. She wasn't resisting instability, she was allowing it to flow through a stable, softened center. Your balance practice can be this. It is not about achieving a rock-solid, motionless pose. It is about finding your harbor, your pelvic center, your core, and learning to keep it soft and responsive. When you stand on one leg, let your hips be soft. Allow the tiny wobbles. Breathe into them. Observe how your body naturally corrects when you are not fighting it. You are not just training your proprioception, you are training your spirit in the art of serene resilience. In this way, the simple, daily act of balancing becomes a silent sermon in wisdom. It teaches you that you can be grounded without being rigid, that you can be engaged without being tense, and that true stability is a dynamic, living process, a conversation, not a monument. Each time you practice, you are building not just physical stability, but an inner steadiness that can withstand any storm. We have journeyed through wholeness, effort, the resilient spine, and the equanimity of balance. Now, let us turn to the silent, ever-present force that animates it all, the breath. In Buddhism, the breath is not merely a biological function, It is the most direct bridge between the body and the mind, the visible expression of the invisible life force, or prana. The Buddha himself used mindfulness of breathing, anapanasati, as a primary vehicle for awakening. Why? Because the breath is always in the present moment. You cannot breathe yesterday's breath or tomorrow's breath. To attend to it is to be irrevocably anchored in the now. But there is a deeper layer relevant to our vitality. The quality of your breath dictates the quality of your life experience at a fundamental, physiological level. Shallow, rapid, chest-bound breathing is the breath of stress, of anxiety, of fight or flight. It tells the nervous system that there is a threat, keeping the body in a state of low-grade emergency. Over years, this chronic stress state accelerates wear and tear, inflammation, and fatigue, symptoms we often lazily label as aging. Conversely, deep, slow, diaphragmatic breathing is the breath of safety, of rest and digest. It signals the nervous system that all is well, allowing for repair, rejuvenation, and calm awareness. This is the breath of vitality. The profound insight here is that we are not victims of our breath patterns, we can cultivate them. And mindful movement is the perfect occasion to do so. Think of your breath as the conductor of your inner symphony. When you move without awareness of breath, it is like an orchestra playing without a conductor. The instruments, your muscles, joints, nerves, may make sound, but it is chaotic, discordant, and exhausting. The violins, your shoulders, are playing too loudly and tightly. The cellos, your hips, are dragging. There is no harmony, only noise that leads to fatigue. Now, imagine beginning your movement by first tuning the conductor, your breath. You take a few deep, slow breaths, feeling the belly expand, the ribs widen, the breath journey all the way down to the pelvis. You have now established the tempo and the key. As you begin to move, to raise an arm, to step forward, to bend, you consciously synchronize the motion with this conductor. The inhale becomes the opening, the expansion, the preparation. The exhale becomes the release, the effort, the letting go. When movement is conducted by the breath, something magical happens. The effort becomes fluid, not forced. The nervous system remains calm, even as muscles work. The mind stays present, riding the wave of each breath. This is movement as meditation. You are no longer doing a stretch, you are breathing your body into a new shape. You are no longer performing a squat, you are inhaling to descend and exhaling to rise, in conversation with gravity. This practice rewires the deepest associations. For many, effort is linked with strain, breath holding, and tension. A state of emergency. By conscientiously pairing gentle effort with calm, rhythmic breathing, you teach your entire organism a new truth: effort can be safe. Effort can be mindful. Effort can be nourishing. This is a revolutionary shift for a body that has learned to brace itself against life. I recall a student named Maya, a former athlete who came to me with chronic injuries and a deep fear of movement. Every time she attempted exercise, she would hold her breath, her face contorted in strain, reliving the punishing regimens of her past. We started from absolute zero. Her first assignment was to lie on her back with her knees bent. She was to place one hand on her belly and one on her chest. Her only task for a week was to breathe and observe, making no attempt to move her body at all. The instruction was simple: let the breath under your hands be like the tide. Slow, natural, rising and falling. If you notice yourself trying to control it, just smile and return to watching. For days, it was a struggle. The urge to do it right, to force a deep breath, was overwhelming. Then, one day, she reported a breakthrough. "I fell asleep during the practice," she said, slightly embarrassed. "But when I woke up, my breath was still going, deep and slow, without me. And for the first time, I felt my body was breathing me. It knew how all along. I was just in the way." From that place of rediscovered trust, we began to add movement, an infinitesimally small pelvic tilt on an exhale, a gentle arm slide on an inhale. Her movement became quiet, effortless, and joyful. She had stopped being a drill sergeant and had become the conductor of her own gentle symphony. This is your invitation. Let your breath be the conductor. Before you move, pause and tune the instrument of your body with 3 conscious breaths. Then, let every motion be an expression of that breath. Inhale to create space. Exhale to release tension. Inhale to extend. Exhale to fold. You will find that movement becomes not a task to complete, but a melody to experience, a melody that sings of presence, peace, and enduring vitality. We have explored the conductor, the breath. Now, let us consider the stage upon which this symphony of mindful movement plays out, daily life itself. There is a subtle, pervasive myth in both spiritual and fitness circles, the myth of the perfect practice. We believe we need the perfect time, the perfect quiet space, the perfect energy level, the perfect 30-minute sequence. If we cannot achieve this ideal, we often do nothing at all. We wait for the stars to align. Buddhism, with its profound practicality, dismantles this myth completely. The Buddha did not teach perfection, he taught persistent practice. He taught showing up, again and again, in the midst of the imperfect, the messy, the mundane. This is where the true magic of mindful movement lives, not in the isolated, sacred hour, but in the integration into the fabric of your ordinary day. Vitality is not built in grand, sporadic gestures, it is woven thread by thread in the loom of daily routine. The body does not respond to occasional heroics, it adapts to what you do most consistently. A single perfect workout is like a single loud note. A consistent, gentle practice, even if imperfect, is a sustaining melody that reshapes the very structure of the instrument. Therefore, the most powerful form of practice is micro-practice. It is the conscious breath taken at the red light. It is the gentle spinal twist while waiting for the kettle to boil. It is the 5 seconds of balancing on one foot while brushing your teeth. It is the conscious, slow climb up the stairs, feeling each step. These are not lesser practices. In many ways, they are more potent, because they repeatedly break the trance of automatic living. They are constant, gentle reminders to the nervous system, wake up. Be here. Feel this. This approach aligns perfectly with the Buddhist concept of samsara, the cyclical, habitual patterns of suffering. We live most of our lives in samsara of the body. Habitual slouching, habitual rushing, habitual breath holding. A grand, weekly yoga class may briefly interrupt this, but the habitual current is strong. Micro-practices are like planting small, sturdy flags of awareness directly in the territory of your habits. They reclaim the day, moment by moment, from the grip of automaticity. Think of your daily routine as a river. Your old habits are the strong, deep current pulling you toward stagnation. Your grand intentions, the perfect workout, are like trying to build a massive dam once a week. It's exhausting and the current often washes it away. Micro-practices are different. They are like dropping small, smooth stones into the river, consistently, throughout the day. Each stone seems insignificant. But over time, they change the flow of the water. They create new channels. They slow the current. They build a stable ford you can walk across. The change is gentle, cumulative, and permanent. I learned this not from a monk, but from a carpenter named Ben who worked on the temple grounds. Ben was in his late 70s, and he could outwork men half his age with a serene, effortless efficiency. I asked him his secret. He chuckled and showed me his hands. "See these tools," he said, indicating his chisels and planes. "I sharpen them every single time I pick them up. Not just at the start of the day. Not a big sharpening session on Sunday. Every single time. It takes 10 seconds. But a sharp tool does the work for you. A dull tool makes you fight, and you ruin the wood and your body." He then pointed to his own body. "This is my main tool. So I sharpen it the same way. I don't go to a gym. But when I pick up a heavy board, I take one breath to feel my feet on the ground before I lift. That's my sharpening. When I've been kneeling, I don't just stand up fast. I unfold, joint by joint, like opening a good knife. That's my sharpening. When I'm sawing, I let my exhale do the push. That's my sharpening. I'm not doing exercises. I'm just keeping the tool I use all day sharp, in the middle of using it." Ben's wisdom was breathtaking. His entire life was his practice ground. His workout was the mindful integration of awareness into his work. He was dropping his sharpening stones into the river of his labor all day long, and as a result, the flow of that river kept him vital, strong, and acutely present. Your invitation is this: stop waiting for the perfect time. Let go of the all-or-nothing mindset. Become a collector of micro-moments of awareness. Link them to your daily rituals, a breath and a stretch after you wake up, a mindful posture check every time you sit down at your desk, a conscious shoulder roll every time you send an email, a slow, balanced walk back from the bathroom. These are not interruptions to your life. They are the very acts that bring your life online. They are how you take the wisdom of the temple and build it into the foundation of your home. We have discussed the power of micro-practices woven into daily life. Now, let us turn our attention to a powerful force that often goes unexamined in our relationship with the aging body: identity. We unconsciously craft stories about ourselves. I am a stiff person. I have a bad back. I'm not flexible. I'm getting too old for that. These are not just observations. They are proclamations of identity. And the mind, seeking consistency, will work tirelessly to make reality conform to the story. If you identify as stiff, you will unconsciously move in ways that reinforce stiffness, avoiding motions that might challenge that story, thus making it true. Buddhism offers a radical tool for liberation from this, the teaching of anatta, or non-self. This does not mean you don't exist. It means your identity is not a fixed, solid thing. It is a fluid, dynamic process, a collection of changing aggregates, body, sensations, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. The suffering arises when we grasp at one of these aggregates, like the aging body, and say, "This is me. This is mine. This is myself." We freeze the river and call it a statue. The practice of mindful movement is a direct application of anatta to the physical form. When you move with true awareness, you are not a stiff person trying to stretch. You are simply a field of awareness, observing the present moment phenomenon of sensation labeled tightness. You are not an old person balancing. You are consciousness, experiencing the dynamic interplay of gravity, muscle firing, and mental focus. You release the story and enter the direct experience. In that space, transformation is not only possible, it is inevitable, because you are no longer defending an old, rigid identity. Think of your self-story as a glass bottle you have built around yourself. The bottle is labeled with all your limitations, fragile, handle with care, past expiration date. It feels safe inside this bottle, it's known. But it also severely limits your movement and dims the light. Every time you move mindfully, with curiosity rather than judgment, you are not trying to break the bottle with force. You are gently tapping it with a warm breath. You are saying, "Is this glass really me? Or is it just a story I've been carrying?" With each tap, with each moment of non-identification with the sensation, the glass becomes less solid. It may even begin to melt. And you realize the bottle was never structural, it was just a thought, solidified by repetition. I witnessed this transformation in a man named Arthur. He was 68 and had fully identified as an invalid after a minor heart procedure. He moved with a cautious shuffle, his world shrunk to his living room. He spoke of his body as a ticking time bomb. We began, as with all things, with the breath. Then, I asked him to do one thing, while sitting, to slowly, point and flex one foot. That's all. His job was not to exercise his foot, but to watch the sensations as if he were a scientist discovering a new species, the tingling here, the pull there, the temperature, the texture of the sock. He was to report the sensations without using the words good, bad, or mine. For 2 weeks, this was his practice. One foot. Then the other. One day, he reported, with a childlike wonder, "When I point my foot, there's a sensation in my calf that travels up the back of my leg. It's like a messenger running up a road I forgot existed. It's not my stiff calf. It's just a messenger on a road." In that moment, the glass bottle labeled invalid cracked. He was no longer a patient inhabiting a broken machine. He was an explorer in a fascinating landscape of sensation. This shift in identity, from owner to explorer, was everything. Within months, his cautious shuffle became a steady walk. He had not cured his heart, he had cured his story. Your practice, then, is an experiment in anatta. As you move, inquire, who is it that feels stiff? Is the stiffness me, or is it a passing cloud in the sky of my awareness? Who is balancing? Is it the old me, or is it just awareness, dancing with gravity in this moment? Do not try to answer with the mind. Let the movement itself be the answer. In the direct experience of sensation without ownership, you will find a freedom and vitality that no young identity can ever offer. We have explored letting go of rigid identity through movement. Now, let's consider the ground from which both identity and movement spring, your relationship with the present moment. We often think of the present as a narrow slice of time between the vast past and the infinite future. We visit it briefly, but our mental home is elsewhere, in memory or anticipation. This exile from the present is a primary source of what we interpret as aging. Why? Because the body only exists now. It can only be experienced, enlivened, and cared for in the eternal present. When we abandon the present, we abandon the body to the autopilot of decay. Buddhist practice is, at its heart, a relentless homecoming to the present. And mindful movement is one of the most graceful vehicles for this return. It is an anchor you can feel in your muscles and bones. Each mindful movement is a profound statement. For this next breath, for this next motion, I am choosing to come home. I am choosing to inhabit this body, this moment, fully. Consider this metaphor: life is like being on a train. The past is the scenery rushing away behind you. The future is the unseen track ahead. Most of us spend our journey twisted in our seats, looking backward with regret or leaning anxiously toward the front window with worry. We feel the strain in our necks, the ache in our backs, but we blame the train ride itself. We blame time. The present moment is simply the seat you are sitting in, the feel of the fabric, the rhythm of the wheels on the tracks, the landscape passing by the window right now. It is always available, always stable, but we ignore it to stare at the ghosts behind us or the phantoms ahead. Mindful movement is the act of turning around in your seat and settling into it. It is feeling the support. It is looking out the window beside you and actually seeing the tree that is there now, not the one that passed 5 miles ago. When you lift your arm with full attention to the sensation, you are turning from the past-future axis and aligning yourself with the timeless axis of presence. In that alignment, a miracle occurs, the strain vanishes. The ache born of twisted attention dissolves. You are not fighting the motion of the train, you are riding it with ease. This is why a simple movement, done with total presence, can feel more rejuvenating than an hour of distracted, future-oriented exercise. You are not exercising for a future body. You are communing with your present body. This communion is the essence of vitality. The body responds to this attentiveness not by becoming younger, but by becoming more real, more integrated, more fully alive in whatever condition it is in. Let me tell you about my teacher's most potent lesson. He was very old, and his movement was minimal. One afternoon, I found him in the garden, moving at a pace so slow it was almost imperceptible. He was reaching for a low-hanging blossom. It took him a full minute to extend his arm. Another minute to gently touch the petals. 2 minutes to withdraw his hand. I sat and watched, my own mind screaming with impatience. When he was done, he turned and saw me. He smiled. "You see a man moving slowly," he said. "But I am not moving slowly through time. I am moving at the exact speed of life. The flower opens at this speed. The cloud moves at this speed. My heart beats at this speed. When you move with the haste of your thoughts, you are moving against life. You are creating friction. That friction is what you feel as aging, as weariness. When you move at the speed of sensation, you move with life. There is no friction. There is only flow. He was not teaching me slowness for its own sake. He was teaching me synchronization. To move at the speed of your direct, unfiltered sensation is to move in harmony with the fundamental pulse of existence. In that harmony, there is no struggle. The body is not worn down, it is sung into coherence. Your practice, therefore, is a calibration of speed. It is not about doing movements slowly all the time. It is about doing them at the speed of your awareness. If your awareness is a frantic flicker, slow down until your movement and your awareness are one thing. Let the movement be so slow that you cannot outrun your own presence. In that space, you will discover that vitality is not a quantity of energy, but a quality of attention. A single, fully present movement nourishes you more than 1,000 forgotten ones. We have spoken of coming home to the present moment through movement. Now, let us contemplate a principle that is the very heartbeat of Buddhist wisdom, and a silent teacher in every motion you make, impermanence, or anicca. Everything that arises passes away. Every sensation, every thought, every condition of the body is in a state of continuous flux. Our suffering around aging stems from a deep, often unspoken rebellion against this law. We want the body to be permanent. We want strength to stay, flexibility to remain, vitality to be a constant. We see change as the enemy. But what if we stopped fighting this fundamental law, and instead learned to move with it? What if our mindful movement became a daily, joyful celebration of impermanence? This shift in perspective transforms everything. The body is no longer a fading photograph you're desperately trying to restore. It becomes a living river, and you are not a bystander on the bank, mourning the water that has passed. You are the swimmer, feeling the current, the temperature, the buoyancy, fully engaged with the water that is here, now. Think of each movement session not as maintenance against decay, but as a conversation with change. When you bend forward and feel a tightness in your hamstrings, that tightness is not a permanent prison. It is a weather pattern in the landscape of your body. It has come due to certain conditions, sitting, stress, time. And with the new conditions of mindful, gentle movement, it will change. It may soften, it may shift, it may reveal something beneath it. The movement is your dialogue with that weather. You are not trying to conquer it. You are saying, I see you. I feel you. Let's see what happens next. This reframes the entire experience of limitation. A stiff shoulder is not, my stiff shoulder, a permanent flaw. It is, the current expression of shoulder. With compassionate attention and movement, you are simply inviting the next expression. Sometimes it will be easier, sometimes not. But you are participating in the flow, not building a dam against it. This participation is the opposite of helplessness. It is agency within the realm of change. Let me share a story about a ceramicist named Alara. She had hands that were beginning to be stiff with arthritis. The doctors gave her a prognosis of gradual decline. For a woman whose life was shaped by clay, this felt like a death sentence. She fell into despair, treating her hands like failed tools, protecting them from use. One day, an old friend, a gardener, visited. He saw her sitting, her hands held still in her lap. He said nothing, but went into her studio, took a lump of clay, and placed it before her. Then he took her hands and placed them on the clay. "Don't make anything," he said. "Just feel it. Cold, damp, gritty. Now, move your fingers, just enough to feel the clay move and to feel your fingers move. Be the scientist of this meeting." Reluctantly, she began. She pressed, released, swirled. She felt the pain, but she also felt the coolness, the slight give, the fascinating texture. She was no longer Elara with arthritic hands making a pot. She was pure sensation meeting pure substance. She began a daily practice, 5 minutes of just feeling and moving clay, with no product in mind. Over months, something unexpected happened. The stiffness did not disappear, but her relationship to it did. The pain became simply information, a sensation among many. Her range of motion, to everyone's surprise, improved. More importantly, she returned to her work, not with her old forceful technique, but with a new, sensitive dialogue with the material. She told me, "I used to fight the clay to make it obey. Now I listen to it, and it tells me what it can become. My hands are the translators. They aren't what they were, but what they are now is perhaps a better listener." Elara stopped seeing her hands as permanent objects on a linear path to ruin. She started engaging with them as changing processes in a dynamic relationship. Her mindful movement, with the clay, was her practice of anicca. She was dancing with impermanence, and in that dance, she found a creativity and vitality more profound than her former, perfect, control. Your movement practice can be this. See each session as your daily audience with impermanence. Feel what is present, strength, weakness, ease, blockage, and greet it not as a final state, but as a passing guest. Your gentle motion is the hospitality you offer. You are not fixing the guest, you are sharing a moment with them before they change form. In this practice, fear of decline softens. A sense of wonder returns. You become curious. What will my body express today? This curiosity is the spark of eternal vitality. Let's continue. We have spoken of coming home to the present moment through movement. Now, let us contemplate a principle that is the very heartbeat of Buddhist wisdom, and the silent teacher in every motion you make, impermanence, or anicca. Everything that arises passes away. Every sensation, every thought, every condition of the body is in a state of continuous flux. Our suffering around aging stems from a deep, often unspoken rebellion against this law. We want the body to be permanent. We want strength to stay, flexibility to remain, vitality to be a constant. We see change as the enemy. But what if we stopped fighting this fundamental law, and instead learned to move with it? What if our mindful movement became a daily, joyful celebration of impermanence? This shift in perspective transforms everything. The body is no longer a fading photograph you're desperately trying to restore. It becomes a living river, and you are not a bystander on the bank, mourning the water that has passed. You are the swimmer, feeling the current, the temperature, the buoyancy, fully engaged with the water that is here, now. Think of each movement session not as maintenance against decay, but as a conversation with change. When you bend forward and feel a tightness in your hamstrings, that tightness is not a permanent prison. It is a weather pattern in the landscape of your body. It has come due to certain conditions, sitting, stress, time, and with the new conditions of mindful, gentle movement, it will change. It may soften, it may shift, it may reveal something beneath it. The movement is your dialogue with that weather. You are not trying to conquer it. You are saying, I see you. I feel you. Let's see what happens next. This reframes the entire experience of limitation. A stiff shoulder is not, my stiff shoulder, a permanent flaw. It is, the current expression of shoulder. With compassionate attention and movement, you are simply inviting the next expression. Sometimes it will be easier, sometimes not. But you are participating in the flow, not building a dam against it. This participation is the opposite of helplessness. It is agency within the realm of change. Let me share a story about a ceramicist named Alara. She had hands that were beginning to be stiff with arthritis. The doctors gave her a prognosis of gradual decline. For a woman whose life was shaped by clay, this felt like a death sentence. She fell into despair, treating her hands like failed tools, protecting them from use. One day, an old friend, a gardener, visited. He saw her sitting, her hands held still in her lap. He said nothing, but went into her studio, took a lump of clay, and placed it before her. Then he took her hands and placed them on the clay. Don't make anything, he said. Just feel it. Cold, damp, gritty. Now, move your fingers, just enough to feel the clay move and to feel your fingers move. Be the scientist of this meeting. Reluctantly, she began. She pressed, released, swirled. She felt the pain, but she also felt the coolness, the slight give, the fascinating texture. She was no longer Alara with arthritic hands making a pot. She was pure sensation meeting pure substance. She began a daily practice. 5 minutes of just feeling and moving clay, with no product in mind. Over months, something unexpected happened. The stiffness did not disappear, but her relationship to it did. The pain became simply information, a sensation among many. Her range of motion, to everyone's surprise, improved. More importantly, she returned to her work, not with her old forceful technique, but with a new, sensitive dialogue with the material. She told me, I used to fight the clay to make it obey. Now I listen to it, and it tells me what it can become. My hands are the translators. They aren't what they were, but what they are now is perhaps a better listener. Alara stopped seeing her hands as permanent objects on a linear path to ruin. She started engaging with them as changing processes in a dynamic relationship. Her mindful movement, with the clay, was her practice of anicca. She was dancing with impermanence, and in that dance, she found a creativity and vitality more profound than her former, perfect, control. Your movement practice can be this. See each session as your daily audience with impermanence. Feel what is present, strength, weakness, ease, blockage, and greet it not as a final state, but as a passing guest. Your gentle motion is the hospitality you offer. You are not fixing the guest, you are sharing a moment with them before they change form. In this practice, fear of decline softens. A sense of wonder returns. You become curious, what will my body express today? This curiosity is the spark of eternal vitality.